Hello everyone, how are you? I believe all of you are healthy, safe, happy, and learning a lot. Today I am here with the last and final installment of understanding the text of the Browning version, which is chapter number 6 from Hornbill, class 11th, a play written by Terence Rattigan, where we come to know that how the teachers are different from each other, what are the attitudes of the students regarding their teachers, how do they treat them, what are their thoughts about the teachers, teaching methodologies, whether they are happy, frustrated, what about that? And we learn that how the teachers are different from each other. There are some teachers who follow the rules, who are very strict. There are some teachers who are very friendly. So, all of us, the teachers, we have our pros and cons. And there was a conversation between Frank and Taplow. And Taplow says, Mr. Crocker Harris, the funny thing is that in spite of everything, I do rather like him. So he was talking about Mr. Crocker Harris. He was talking to Mr. Frank that in spite of Mr. Crocker Harris being such a merciless teacher, very strict, hard to flatter, shriveled up inside his cocoon, that you cannot even crack his personality even a bit. Still, why he doesn't know, but he liked Mr. Crocker Harris. And Frank says, I believe you're exaggerating. And then Taplow comes up with an incident. No, sir, I'm not. Informed the other day, he made one of his classical jokes. Of course, nobody laughed because nobody understood it, myself included. Still, I knew he had meant it as funny, so I laughed. Out of ordinary common politeness and feeling a bit sorry for him for having made such a poor joke. Now I can't remember what the joke was, but suppose I make it. Now you laugh, sir. So Frank was laughing. And Taplow says that I laughed on his joke because nobody in the class was laughing. And, I felt so bad for him. And that is why, out of politeness, sensibility, I laughed. So this shows that Taplow was polite and, more importantly, he was sensible. He felt bad for Crocker Harris. And then Taplow, in a very gentle, throaty voice, what Mr. Crocker Harris said, he is imitating here again. Taplow, you laughed at my little joke, I noticed. I must confess that I am pleased at the advance your Latin has made since you so readily have understood what the rest of the form did not. Perhaps now you would be good enough to explain it to them so that they too can share your pleasure. So, definitely, Mr. Crocker Harris was a teacher of Latin, a foreign language. The students could not understand a single thing about the joke, even Taplow did not. But he laughed out of common politeness, and now Mr. Crocker Harris was asking him to explain everything to the other students and how difficult it would have been for Taplow, only because he was sensible enough. The door upright is pushed open and Millie Crocker Harris enters. She is a thin woman in her late 30s, rather more smartly dressed than the general run of schoolmasters' wives. She is wearing a cape and carries a shopping basket. She closes the door and then stands by the screen watching Taplow and Frank in a few seconds before they notice her. So we have Mrs. Millie Crocker Harris, and as it is said that she was wearing a kind of cape. Capes are on your left and on your right. In the center, there is a shopping basket picture. But on your left and right, these are the kinds of capes. They cover the entire body sometimes, they cover the entire dress also. So they wrap up the entire dress actually, kind of. So we have the some of the capes that have buttons, some of the capes are open from the front. So we have different types of capes, and it means that she was very smartly dressed. And Frank was having such a fun time because Taplow was completely embarrassed in front of Mr. Crocker Harris on that day. Come along, Taplow. Do not be so selfish as to keep a good joke to yourself. Tell the others. He breaks off suddenly, noticing Millie. Oh Lord. So Frank was too friendly, as I said earlier, that he was saying that Taplow, you must tell others what the joke was. Come on, do that. As if they were friends. And then he suddenly saw Millie. Frank turns quickly and seems infinitely relieved at seeing Millie. So First of all, he looked at Millie, but then he completely changed his expression. It was a very normal thing to see Millie, Frank, oh hello, Millie, without expression. Hello. She comes down to the sideboard and puts her basket on it. And a sideboard looks like this. And it has legs. It may not have legs also. But sideboard is something on which you can put things, in which you can put things. So we have drawers and we have the top. They can be used, both of them can be used to put things inside or on the sideboard. Tableau. Moving up to left of Frank, whispering frantically. Do you think she heard? Frank shakes his head comfortingly. Millie takes off her cape and hangs it on the hall stand. I think she did. She was standing there quite a time. If she did and she tells him, there goes my remove. Nonsense. So Frank was pretty comfortable. He knew that Millie Crocker Harris did not listen to anything and they can be comfortable regarding that. They are not supposed to be afraid of that. But Tableau, a student, was completely afraid and he did not know what would happen if Millie Crocker Harris would have listened to everything and inform everything to Crocker Harris what will happen to his result. And that is why he said everything in a very frantic manner, done in a hurried way and in a state of excitement or confusion. I have been working frantically all week to get it finished on time. So that is why his expression was filled with frantic. That is, he was completely out of his senses. And Millie Crocker Harris put her things, her cape on the hall stand, which looks like this on your right. You can put your shoes inside and you can hang your capes, coats, caps on that, a hall stand. Coming back to the text. Millie takes the basket from the sideboard, moves above the table, and puts the basket on it. Millie to Tableau. Waiting for my husband. Tableau moving down left to the table. Yes. He's at the bazaars and might be there quite a time. If I were you, I would go. So, bazaars, let's learn about what this particular word is. Bazaar. A person in a college or university who deals with its financial affairs. So, accountant maybe. So, Mr. Crocker Harris was busy with that person and he would not appear sooner or later, maybe. Tableau, doubtfully, he said most particularly I was to come. So, even when Millie Crocker Harris was saying that he is late and he might not be here, why don't you just leave? Tableau is not ready to go. He's very much afraid of Mr. Crocker Harris, that's very sure. Millie, well, why don't you run away for a quarter of an hour and come back? She unpacks some things from the basket. Tableau, supposing he gets here before me? Millie, smiling, I'll take the blame. She takes a prescription out of the basket. I tell you what, you can do a job for him. Take this prescription and take it to the chemist and get it made up. All right, Mrs. Crocker Harris. He crosses towards the door upright. So this is how finally Tableau has the right and liberty to go out. And there was no Crocker Harris in the entire picture, but we come to know so much about him. So let us summarize everything now. Mr. Crocker Harris and Mr. Frank are school teachers. Frank is young and Crocker Harris is middle aged. Crocker Harris is a strict and stern school teacher. He is a man of principles and sticks to the rules. Whereas Frank is quite lethargic and irresponsible in his duties. He was not strict to the rules. Unlike Frank, Harris does not disclose the result of the form to the students. It is very hard to extract any information from him that is against the rule. Harris is highly duty conscious. He is leaving the school at the end of the term and is quite busy. Still, he asked Tableau to come in for extra work which he missed when he was ill. On the other hand, Frank is not interested in teaching his subject science and tries to find fault with the students. So this is how the compare and contrast between Mr. Crocker Harris and Frank is presented. Mr. Harris has a strict hold on the boys and students seems to be scared to death of him. Mr. Frank is envious towards Harris for the effect he has on the boys. He eavesdrops on Taplow to know his attitude towards Harris. He never tries to keep the dignity of his colleague and encourages the boy when he imitated the teacher and suggests him to cut Mr. Harris and play golf. Harris hates people to like him, but Frank seems to like being liked. In fact, Frank is a quite contrast to Harris in his personality, principles, and devotions. So here we have two teachers who are very, very different from each other. And there we have a very important long answer type question that where you have to compare and contrast the characters of Frank and Crocker Harris. Apart from that, we can have separate questions regarding the behavior, the personalities, the character of Mr. Crocker Harris and Mr. Frank separately. And then comes Taplow, who happens to be an ordinary teenager. He is indeed fearful of Mr. Crocker Harris. That is why he was there and was not ready to go back. He disliked him as he was, feelingless, merciless, and over strict. A good imitator imitated his teacher. He liked Crocker Harris anyhow. He doesn't know the reason, but he liked Crocker Harris. He was polite and sensible and laughed over Crocker Harris' joke when he cracked a Latin joke in his class, and nobody laughed. So this is how we have to sum up the characteristic features, and we have learned about the three major characters: Crocker Harris, Frank, and Taplow. To close it all, I would like to mention that students don't need a perfect teacher. Students need a happy teacher who's gonna make them excited to come to school and grow a love for learning. Now, when it comes to Frank, there are faults in his behavior, principles, and teaching methodologies. When it comes to Crocker Harris, he too is not flawless. He is merciless, he is very strict, and he is all shriveled up. Both the teachers, they need to improve themselves to become a good teacher. Not a likable teacher, but at least a good teacher. And as far as the boy, Taplow, is concerned, according to me, he is a very natural, simple boy who gets frustrated when he is being punished, who gets swept away in emotions, and who still is sensible enough to like his teacher no matter what, because the teacher happens to be genuine after all. So, with this, I would like to close the session as well as complete the chapter. I believe you have understood it. And my suggestion to you again is that go back to the chapter right from the beginning, read it out, and you will understand more about the content in that manner. Thanks a lot.